My name is Craig Rainey, and I've been in the construction industry for more than 40 years. When homeowners tell me the story of their project, oftentimes it sounds like this. It doesn't have to be that way.
Oh, wise guy, eh?
And most builders would say that. Welcome to Remodeling Wisdom. I'm Craig Rainey. Let's get started. Welcome, everyone. Appreciate you taking a moment to check out this episode of Remodeling Wisdom from the Expert. I've got a pretty good episode lined up, and I think this is something that this is a danger that I've touched on, but really it has come into bold relief in the past couple weeks for me. And there are two different examples of this that I'll use and what it comes down to is just because you own the software doesn't mean that you're good at what you do or you're an expert. But before we get to that, I'd like to encourage y'all to either hit subscribe, like, or follow, because we're on every platform where premium podcasts are purveyed. But that way you can know if a new episode's coming out or if we've got some news or, this kind of thing. But mainly you can keep up with us. And for those of you who are either a homeowner trying to get a remodel done or a lot of builders, much to their chagrin and my delight, are following my podcast. And some of the information I give is a little negative towards remodelers, but I'm hoping that those remodeling professionals are taking it as in the spirit it's meant, is to help everyone, to make this industry better. So, I do appreciate the likes and follows and everything else. Now, if you want to get hold of me, I'm not hard to find. My website is craigrainey.com. But for those of you who are more of a fan of the written word instead of the spoken word, I do have an online magazine blog site called Remodeling Wisdom, Advice from the Expert. And you can find that at texasbuilderblog.com or craigsbuilderblog.com. Either one will get you there. And if you want to get hold of me directly, a lot of these sites do not have a comment button. So contact me directly at craigrainey.com. That's my email address, and you can get hold of me there. And I get quite a few questions, and I answer them myself. It's not like I'm, have this staff of hundreds that work here, but I answer them myself, and I have gotten some good replies saying, hey, that was helpful. Thanks a lot. And by the way, I really, really appreciate you taking a moment to listen to my podcast. You have a lot of choices, especially there are a lot of folks out there that are providing remodeling and construction advice, and a lot of it is really, really good. I'm one of the few, it seems like there's just one guy, and I'm hoping that that will suffice. But anyway, I encourage you to reach out and get in touch with me. But that being said, let's get on with it. I've got a client right now that and there are different personality types, and everybody's got their own level of comfort as far as how much control they want in their project. And this particular homeowner, we are contracted, and he's trying to get his design completed. It started with me. I'm not sure how it happened because I do design on a lot of architectural design on my projects. I'm not an architect. I say that many times. Architects are way more skilled than I am, and they're highly valuable in what they do. I always say this, as a homeowner, select your builder before you start talking to your architect. And I'm going to give you an example of why that's important. But anyway, so I've run into this a couple times to where the homeowner, my client or potential client, will get involved with an architect, and I won't see him for a couple months or 6 months as they're working this thing through. One of the examples a few years ago, I had one where, and one of the things I discussed with my clients is, well, what is your budget? And that's always a dangerous conversation to have with your remodeler, because if you say, well, my budget is $100,000, you're afraid that they're going to come in at $99,999.99. Well, I'm 1 cent below your budget, so it's a fit. Never pick your builder based on price. Just like, would you go with the cheapest doctor? If you had cancer, would you say, well, this is the cheapest doctor, I'm going to go with them? You're going to look for the specialist. You're going to look for the best. And the best typically is not and this is as a rule, the best is not going to mark their price up because they're the best. There's some cases. Back in the day, Racehorse Haynes, he was the big attorney. I don't know if I'm old, but the slave ranch and everything else, he was the one that represented those folks. And this is a guy, they probably paid him $100,000 to do that, but back in the day, and that's in the 80s. But all these. Johnny Cochran, these are the best attorneys and they charge it. But what I'm talking about is in the construction industry, your most reputable remodelers and builders are going to be that middle price. You're always going to get three prices whenever you get bids. And for some reason, everybody goes with a 3-bid model. And there's no rhyme or reason for it. I don't recommend it because typically the 3 that they pick are based on reviews or the one that's been used the most if you're on one of these search engines like Angie's List, which is called Angie now, but Home Advisor, that kind of thing. And so they pick the top 3. And then those 3 out of those 3 are the ones that they'll pick one from. And typically that's based upon who's the cheapest price. You don't want to pick your builder based on the cheapest price. And we've got an episode about that, how to pick your remodeler. But just real quick, I would recommend that you pick them based upon, number one, your relationship. That relationship piece is 99% of your build. Anybody can build, obviously, because you got people running around in junky trucks with tool bags in the back, right? So what it comes down to is management, knowledge, experience. That one builder who's going to be your advocate, who's going to protect your money and your project. That's what you're looking for. And that doesn't come at the cheapest price. The cheapest price comes with the cheapest work, the cheapest materials, the cheapest everything. And the biggest reason that companies fail and the biggest reason that companies are dragged into court is because they were the cheapest bidder. They charged the least amount of money. So, that's not a formula for success. You buy the cheapest car, you're going to get a clunker. You get the cheapest physician, you may not live through the process. You get the cheapest mechanic, well, I'd take my Beamer somewhere else, but, and it applies here too. But again, the 3 prices you're going to get, the lowest price, that guy is the desperate one. That is the one that in this economy, especially I live in Austin, which it's booming, even though we've had 6 or 7 interest rates hikes with the feds, we're still killing it here. I mean, there are people turning away work March of 2023 because they just can't do it all. And, so we're in a rare situation. Other parts of the country, and I just traveled 1,800-mile trip, and I saw different parts of the country where it's a lot more depressed, the economy is. But anyway, so the lowest price is going to be the desperate one. They're just trying to get the work in. Their business model is I just throw proposals out there, and then whoever selects me, I'm going to go. And they're selected. If you have 4 proposals in front of you or 3, you're going to go with the cheapest price. And so they're always the cheapest, which means they're always behind the 8 ball. They're not properly funded to get the right people to do your job. They're looking at cutting costs from the moment they're awarded the job till they finish it. So the quality is going to suffer because as somebody who's in the industry every day, my trades are probably the most expensive trades. And I'm talking about my subcontractors because I'm a general contractor. I work in it every day. I've got work to do today after this podcast is over. So, I am completely up to speed on how this industry operates and what it takes to be successful in it. So the lowest price, you want to avoid that because that's the desperate one. They're just out there just trying to keep their cash flow going. And you don't want to bankroll somebody's business with your project money. Right? Okay, enough said about that, right? And then the high price, that's typically a sign of inexperience. The high price means that somebody's looking at that and they're scared of the project. They're afraid of what it is. You might have to move bearing walls or cut concrete or it's just a really intricate design or something that's pretty technical and they're scared of it. They're not sure what it's going to cost to actually do it because they've never done something like that. So let's throw an extra $30,000, $40,000 at this particular aspect of it because, I don't want to get caught behind the 8 ball and have to pay for it out of my pocket. So low price is desperation. High price is inexperience. The middle is typically where you're going to find your best builders. Those are the ones that do this day in, day out. They know how much a sheet of OSB is. They know what their electrician's going to charge. They know what they're going to be facing technically and structurally on this thing. And that's the one you'll typically draw your people from. But again, price is not the criteria. The first criteria is relationship. Do you get along with this person? Is this somebody that you feel warmly about it? I'm not talking about this salesy, hey, how you doing? I'm a great guy, and you're a great guy too. You don't want that. What you want is somebody that you have a genuine connection with. And I've lost. I don't get every bid, And not everybody's a follower following my podcast. They don't know who I am, and I don't schlep my podcasts when I'm out there. I just say, I'm coming out as a builder. Let me give you a bid, compete for your business. Let's look at the project. They find me very knowledgeable, but some people, I'm not their cup of tea, and I get that. That happens. So the point is, pick based on a relationship. You get along with that person, and you feel like they've got your best interest at heart, because a profitable builder who is successful isn't worried about the money. They want to cover their costs. They want to make sure that they can have enough built in there where they can give you the quality that you're looking for, and they want to make a decent amount of profit so they stay in business. These folks, they don't come in worried about you paying for all their bills that month. You're just one more job for them that's continuing that you're propagating what they're doing for a living, and that's what they're doing. And that's what you want. You want a very casual look at the money. You want them to go, well, it's going to cost this and that, and and they're very transparent about it, but they don't seem to be, dying for you to sign on the dotted line. That's not necessarily what you want to do. So anyway, you want that piece there. So let's go back to what we're talking about. After you pick your builder, then at that point, you should have your builder either recommend an architect or a designer, because there's a difference. I'm a designer. I'm not an architect. If they do it in-house, ask them if they're subcontracting that, or if they've got somebody on staff, because if they're subcontracting it, ask about the relationship. And the reason I'm saying this is because the question is, how do you vet a designer? And this is the point of this episode. When I design as a designer, and I use primarily Chief Architect, but I'm experienced with AutoCAD. I've done a lot of technical stuff. I'm very familiar with engineering specs. I've got an engineer who I've got a personal relationship with for years, and I've mentioned before, I can call this guy at 8:00 at night, and I can sit there and debate span tables with him. I've got that relationship with him. It's not just an 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. Every now and then I send somebody to him relationship. This is something where I'm personally vested, especially as a designer, where I need to know what I can span, what how I'm going to carry the weight of that roof, because I'm not going to go into this, but I almost started explaining bearing walls. We've covered that before. All walls in your house are bearing, by the way. When it's referred to as a bearing wall in the industry, that has to do with bearing the weight of your roof or structure. Everything in your house bears weight. Every wall, even that little partition wall between your shower and your toilet, for instance, that bears weight, even though it's not considered a bearing wall. But anyway, I have to know these things. So what happened with me is this: I started doing the design, and we went back, and I explained the process. And I always say this: I've only had one client in my entire career that went with my first design, and they loved it. It was the one-off. It never happens. I won the lottery on that one. Typically what happens is I will bring my design in. They'll look at it and say, well, I hate this, I hate that. And I get more hates than likes. And that's what you want. I let my clients know, look, the more I'm wrong, the closer we get to your drawing. It's a different type of relationship than what we're used to. So anyway, with this client, I explained, look, that we're going to have several different renditions. We're going to make big changes. And then by the time we're done, we're now making the little small changes, the minutia, the tiny things. And anyway, so we got to the first big change, and the next thing I know, they said, well, hey, we've got an interior decorator. It's somebody that does color. And they're saying, so we're going to bring her in. We want her to put together color palettes. So we're going to stop the design until we get that done. And I said, well, why would we stop the design? I mean, she's going to tell you countertop colors, paint colors. You're going to pick your flooring, your carpet, wall paint. Why do we need to stop the design? And he told me, he said, well, because she also does architectural design. She has the software, and I don't know, she might be using Revit or whatever. I'm not sure what she's using. And I said, okay, I'm not sure why that's going on. And to this day, I don't understand why there's another designer doing the structure on this. So anyway, what the customer wants is that's fine. I mean, I'm good with that. I'm all about their comfort. And for some reason, this person is very important in their decision-making process. So I said, that's fine. Anyway, so it dragged out for about 2 months while this designer was putting together a drawing. And I'd already drawn it's a full home renovation with a room addition and a patio cover and a bunch of other stuff. It's a very big, very technical, large scope project. Anyway, so he finally emails me their first rendition of what they're looking at. And I said, wow. And let's just call this client John. I said, John, your budget on this is $250,000 is the actual number. I said, your budget on this is $250,000, and you got a wall here, and you're turning, and there's a laundry room that goes between the house and the garage. And I hate that. I don't think a hallway should be functional. I think a hallway should function as a hallway. Your laundry room should not be a hallway. It should be sequestered, have its own space, have its, it's equipped to handle laundry, not traffic going through. So in this one, he kept the laundry room, even though my drawing showed the laundry room, I moved it to a different place. The laundry room's right there, and this is not a pride thing you're going to see. And he wants to put a refrigerator, recess it into the wall. And the wall that, there are two walls, obviously, going through this as a hallway. One of them, which borders the ensuite, he says it showed that he moved it 2 feet to make the laundry room wider by 2 feet. And then I looked in the garage. In the garage, he had moved that wall where the cars head in, right there at the front, at the back of the garage, front of the car. He'd moved that in 3 feet into the living room. And so I looked at that and I said, John, you just added about $85,000 to the cost of your job just in these two walls. He goes, what do you mean? And I said, you realize that these are two major bearing walls in your house, and we're moving one 2 feet, and you've got vaulted coffer on top. There's a lot of structure up there. You've got another one which goes right under the peak of your roof, and that one we're moving it 3 feet in away from the peak. Our cost factors are carpentry work, sheetrock, tape float texture paint, insulation, electrical, plumbing, HVAC. You see, we can't just take those wires that are going to be too short now because we're moving it. We can't just put a J-box in the wall and run it. We got to completely run all that wiring new, and we might have to put a sub panel in. He goes, what? I said, yeah. I said, doesn't your designer know this? And he goes, well, I don't know. And then I looked at the room addition, and I had a room addition that was somewhere in the neighborhood of 14 foot by 13 feet, something like that, 13, 14 feet. It was just a push out. It's a sunroom, going to have a dining room table in it, this kind of thing. It was now 8.5 feet by 10 feet. And I said, man, that's smaller than a small bedroom. You can't get your table in there. And he goes, you can't? I said, I mean, didn't your designer know that? And I said, what about this coffered ceiling where it's going to come in? This coffer's not going to work. We're going to have to completely rip out your living room ceiling, reframe it to make this work, and then we're going to have to rebrace the roof, and there's more electrical. I said, this whole thing, you went from $250,000, you're pushing $425,000 in this project now because you didn't involve me in it. And he just, well, I can't believe that. And he didn't believe me, and I said, okay. I sent him my drawings again and showed him. I said, look, your designer has to know something about the way that things are built and the moving parts. Your designer's just in there moving walls around and recessing refrigerators and moving bearing walls and everything else, and without any eye towards your budget, any consideration for it. Really, really bad thing on your project, unless you have unlimited money. But I mean, you'll never be able to sell this house for enough to get that money back. I don't care if you live in it forever. You don't want to buy a $500,000 car if you're making $85,000 a year. You're going to be in payments of $5,000 a month for the rest of your life. You just don't want to do that. Well, house is the same way. You want to make sure that you keep your investment in a wise place. So anyway, I talked to him about it. He goes, well, I'll just go back. I said, well, John, why don't you just let me design this? I mean, we were only at step 2, and then you've gone with this interior designer who's supposed to do color palette, and she's doing all this architectural design for you. And she obviously doesn't know anything about the building business. Okay, I'm going to stop that conversation because it's not important what he said. The point that I'm making is this interior decorator claimed, because she has architectural design software, that she was an architectural designer. Well, that's not the case. Another example, I've got my wife and I, we have friends who are putting in a swimming pool. And in the swimming pool, they're putting a swimming pool, a cabana, hot tub, a bunch of flat work, and just multi tiers in their backyard. And whoever designed the layout of this thing, they put the hot tub directly in front of the set of stairs that you go down to go to the pool. So you walk down the stairs from the back door, you walk around the hot tub, and then over to the pool. Okay, the hot tub should be over to the side. It should not be the key water feature of this thing. It impedes traffic flow, egress. There are a lot of things that go to it. And so what they're finding is that pool companies, which I don't have a high opinion of pool companies, I just think that they're not really qualified to be general contractors, but they're having trouble with the cabana people because the cabana general contractor's running his thing and the pool company's running his thing, and they're completely separate entities, and there's nobody who's managing the two of them together. So they're failing inspections. They're not getting things done. They're not coming in on time. I mean, this job was supposed to be done over a year ago, and it's still going on. And there's still a lot of bickering going on. So imagine you're the homeowner. Is that something you want to be involved with? So let's go back to the design. Who was it that designed this layout for this backyard entertaining area to put a hot tub right in front of where you walk down the stairs? Why wasn't it put in a proper place? Well, and it's funny because I was asked this question. Well, how do you know? How do you find the right person? Well, that's a tough question. And I would say the first thing you do is you come to a place like this right here at this podcast, and I will help you find that right person. And I will help you know what to look for, because the construction industry is the Wild West. In the United States, 90+% of the entire United States is completely unregulated. There's no licensing, experience, or anything, any type of credentials or qualifications required to go in the construction business in this country. And it's a $1.3 trillion a year business. It's a big piece of pie, and everybody wants a piece. I enjoy it. I live a very good life because I get a piece of that pie. But I also provide a quality, worthwhile, sustainable product with a wise business model. And it's because I've been doing this for 43 years, and I know I've made mistakes. Believe me, I'm not perfect, but I've been more successful than I've failed, and that's the reason I'm still here. But in these two instances, you have people who are not qualified to do design work, that are doing the design work, and their only qualification is they spent $500 for a piece of software. That's it. No continuing education, no training, no understanding of how it applies. In the case of John's designer, she has no clue how things are built. She's just moving walls around in this house, putting pocket doors in, and pocket doors typically are lack of imagination because you can't figure out how to get the door swing to work. But I mean, everything there looks like a novice did this. It looks like a homeowner designed it. And I'm helplessly watching this going, man, what am I supposed to do with this? How am I supposed to help him when he is completely believing that the design he's getting is sustainable? You go to resell this house, it's going to look like somebody just went, there's nothing clever about the design. So how do you vet someone? Well, I would say this, and I'm going to put it in 3 steps, and this is how I do it, because this is how I vet my trades. Number one is I do look at what their tools are. If they're using Chief Architect, are they using the X14, which is the latest right now, or are they using the $500 version, the designer version? With my subcontractors, I go and I look at their tools. If they're a framer, did they go to Home Depot and buy their compressor and guns for $300 for the package? It's got the big blue hose and the little compressor that doesn't need oil, and the gun, and the whole thing's $300. My nail guns are $300 each by themselves. My compressor's $1,000 because I do production work, and which I'm not in that business anymore. I've got a great workshop because of my background, but I mean, that's what I have. And, is it a circular saw? Is it, is it a Bosch? is it a rigid? What kind of circular saw is it? Are they using battery powered tools on the job? Which, believe me, I see a lot of people do it. I like to see you cut an entire roof with a battery powered saw. Sorry, doesn't work. But, that's what I look at. So with the designer, what kind of software are they using? Are they AutoCAD? Are they Revit? Those typically are the ones that the pros are using. Chief Architect, real easy plug and play. That's the reason I use it, because it's easy. If I've got architectural work that needs to be done, I have an associate architect, in other words, associate of my company. It's somebody that I lean on for architectural design. What I do is I do design based on, and it's real simple stuff, really. So I don't delve into new construction. That's not what I do. I do remodeling, and I adjust space based on, I optimize the existing space, and I design around traffic flow. Make sure that I don't make my laundry room a hallway. But I look at it with 43 years of construction experience, which means that when I'm putting my laundry room where I did with the original design, it was a space that was already there, was being used for something else. And I used that same structure, repurposed it. It was very efficient, very inexpensive comparably, and very functional, and it filled all the criteria. So number one, look at their tools. Look at the tools they're using. Does it seem like it's pro, or does it seem like something? I mean, you can look this stuff up. Just ask them, hey, what are you using? Well, I use Chief Architect X14. Well, that's about $3,600 a year. Okay, well, no, obviously he's making a living doing that. If it's $500, my neighbor has that. I had a client that went out and spent $500 and said, hey, I'll design this with you. And I mean, this happens. The second thing, ask them about, well, I'm going to give you one before that. The second thing is use your common sense. Some of us are not, some of us are really super right brain, and we can't imagine having a hot tub right in front of us. But, talk to friends or whatever it may be, somebody that you have that, that's had this done, and say, what are the pitfalls? What are the things that you would have done differently? But in the case of this hot tub, walk down those stairs and imagine that hot tub's there and you have to walk around it. Well, I mean, if you're at a party, you got a bunch of people in there and they're drinking champagne in there, and every time somebody walks by, they're looking in the hot tub to see these people. Maybe that should be a little more private. Maybe that should not be the key architectural feature when you walk in, considering you have a beautiful cabana and you got a beautiful pool with a zero edge to it. I mean, it's these are the things that you can do. Just use your common sense. Look at magazines. Pay attention to the little things. Don't just look, ooh, it's beautiful. Look at what makes it beautiful. You're not stupid. You're not dumb people. Use that intellect. You may not be in the industry, but it doesn't mean you don't know. There are certain things you know. How are you going to occupy the space? And that's what you want to think of. And the third thing, finally, question these people. Ask them how much construction industry experience they have. And when they say, well, I've got a lot, well, be more specific. What's the last project you worked on? Can I see it? Do you have those drawings? Do you have blueprints? And by the way, this designer doesn't do blueprints on John's job. Does not. Counting on me to do it, to put together the construction drawings on that. Well, that's a red flag. So, these three things. And quick review. Number one, look at their tools. Number two, use your common sense. How are you going to occupy the space? And remember, don't be befuddled by, well, this is how I occupy it. Now, you're renovating this home so you don't occupy it the same way as you do now. In most cases, okay, I'm working from home and I'm tired of working in a bedroom or in the living room when the kids are playing and the TV's on. Well, obviously, you're going to see yourself, well, I see myself working here. I want quiet. I need electrical so I can plug in my laptop and do this and do that. These are some things you're going to consider. We'll do it with every aspect of it. So in other words, don't say, well, the fireplace needs to be moved because I need a door there because I'm putting a pool in. But don't say, well, that fireplace looks great, and you're going to have to move it. There's some things that are going to change. So don't look at this from the optics of, well, I'm comfortable with this. Look at it from the optics of, this is the way I see myself occupying the space in the future. And if these folks have any skill at all, they're going to make a recommendation to you. And it happens all the time. I've had clients say, well, I really like the kitchen the way it's laid out. And I'll ask them, so what is it about it? What is it about your kitchen that encouraged you to remodel it? What was your motivation there? And a lot of times they'll tell me, well, because it's too tight. I can't move around in it, and I don't like the way the cabinets are laid out. And it may be they just need new cabinet configuration. If so, as a responsible builder who has their best interest in mind, I'll say, look, we don't need to renovate this whole thing and change the footprint. Let's put you some new high quality cabinets in there. Let's put a new countertop in. We can add a few niceties in there, some value added features. Let's do that. And they'll do it. But a lot of times I'm redoing the footprint. I've walked into bathrooms and I've had a shower in one place, a toilet in one place, and I've completely reversed them because it didn't make sense because of the flow. And architects make these mistakes all the time. The majority of the homes that I remodel are younger than 10 years. And it's almost like these folks don't live in houses, but they're really good at what they do. They're not always the best at designing it. But get your builder involved. Your builder can definitely help you find the right person and absolutely keep your budget in mind when the designer is putting this together. And you have to have that coordination between architectural designer and builder. In my case, I'm one person the same. And I adjust things based on what people need. I had one, and in fact, I'm working on it now. And this particular job, when I went in, she said she wants this and that, and I don't need to go into all the details. Just let me tell you this. So we were constrained by the size of the existing structure because they wanted 2 room additions. One was going to expand the kitchen out, and the other one was to create a larger space for the primary bedroom. Well, the problem is with the roof line of the existing house, we would have had roof lines towering, and the additions are in the back of the house, so they would have been towering over the existing roof, and it would have looked untoward. It would have looked clunky. So it doesn't work. And so when I was designing this, and she says, look, you're not giving me the space. I don't think you're listening to me. No, 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 no. And so I met with them. And I said, look, let me manipulate this. And so I put the roof on. They go, oh, that roof is horrible. I said, I know. As a designer, when I give you a design, it's based on your budget, and it's based on architecturally what is acceptable and what's not going to make you go, ooh, that's a pink Volkswagen with yellow polka dots. I don't want that. You want to make sure that it's something that people go, that's a clever use of space. That's a really nice architectural design feature. That's what you want to hear. You don't want to go, oh, so you remodeled, huh? All right, y'all. I just wanted to let you know that the upshot of this is that people have money to buy software and tools and signs and LLCs and websites and everything else. And it just because they buy these things and they present these things, it doesn't mean that the person behind it is worthy of your trust and your money. And if you're looking at doing a remodel this spring, pardon me, you're stepping into very treacherous waters. You're about to enter into an industry which is the Wild West. Everybody's in it because there's a lot of money. This is the gold rush. And you're jumping into people that want your money. Now, can they deliver a product? In many of these contractors, general contractors' minds, the money is primary and your job is secondary. The whole thing is how much money can we bring in here? And then they let the pieces fall where they may because they believe that their subs will manage the job. And that is cardinal sin number one. Never let your trades manage your job. You need to have somebody like me who has enough experience that'll tell the subs what to do. One more example. I'm about to close. I've got a job, and I've mentioned it before. We are almost done with the inspection process. This is one that had a permit open. And so my air conditioning contractor, well, it's his, he doesn't have a lot of experience pulling permits with the city. So he's talking directly to the owner. He's not calling me. He's not talking to me. And so I get the owner, and he calls me in a panic. He said, hey, says we got to get this, this inspection, that inspection. And I tell him, well, look, now that inspection is due with our final inspection. And it's done by an independent inspector and so forth. And he goes, well, that's not what he's saying. I said, but sir, customer, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And that just shocks him. It blows him away that a licensed HVAC contractor that I would say, well, he doesn't know what he's talking about, because to him, he's the AC guy. He knows everything. And Craig, you know nothing. It's just the opposite. These people typically can't hold a job. They can't show up on time. They don't play well with others. They can't pass a background check, whatever it may be. So they go to work for the only person who will hire them. And that's themselves. And like I said, a lot of these people, they don't play well with others. That's the reason they can't hold a job. They can't operate in a workforce. So if somebody's going to use their ego, no, I'm the final authority on this. And I told him, I said, look, if you want to pay him another $6,000 or $7,000 to do it the way he wants to do it, that's up to you. If you want me to save you that $6,000 or $7,000, I can do it. What do you want to do? And it's funny how that talks. But you need to have somebody in your design phase of it and your general contractor phase that will represent you the way I just described. I represent my clients. I know more than the trades. No, I'm not an HVAC guy. They know more about HVAC than I do. But the business end of it and what you can and can't do and what you should do, the order, one of these inspections he wants done doesn't come to the final. He doesn't know that. And it just doesn't. You have to have sheetrock up. And we're at utility inspection where we're doing the licensed trades, the wiring and the plumbing and everything else. And we're not there yet. We're still open studs. And he doesn't, and the AC guy doesn't know that. I mean, he didn't even know to activate the permits so that we could get the inspection done. So, these are things that you really need to watch, because there are a whole lot of people that really represent well or present well and really seem to know what they're doing, but they really don't know. If you have questions, contact me, Craig@CraigRaney.com, and I really appreciate you spending this time. And I try to be as positive as I can, but I see so much to complain about. Really appreciate you, and good luck on your project. Bye.